Con Mi Madre in Spanish means with my mother. And Madre is an acronym that means mothers and daughters raising expectations. The reason that we involve a mom historically is because when you look at research, moms are the biggest influence on their daughters. And I'm a mom today, and so my daughter is not going to struggle in the way that I did or have some of the same challenges. She's going to have new challenges, but not the ones that I had. And she's her starting point, mine might have been here, hers is over here.
Hola, amiga, and welcome to the Latina Leadership Podcast, the podcast by Latinas for all women. So get ready because today's conversation is really special. Hi, welcome back to another episode of the Latina Leadership Podcast. I'm Gracie, your co-host, and I'm so excited to be here today with Dr. Johanna. Please introduce yourself to our listeners.
Yeah, hi, Gracie, and it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invitation. I'm Johanna Moya, and I'm tuning in here from Austin, Texas, and I lead an organization called Mi Madre. I'm the executive director.
And what do you do at Mi Madre?
So at Mi Madre, I lead the organization. The work of the organization focuses, well, let me backtrack and explain. Con Mi Madre in Spanish means with my mother, and Madre is an acronym that means mothers and daughters raising expectations. So we are an organization that works with girls, sixth grade all the way through college, and the focus is to support them with the participation of their moms in achieving a post-secondary degree. We're a long-term program, and we follow them from middle school all the way through high school graduation. And if they choose to enroll with us in college, we support them through that process in figuring out what their goals are, what they want to do in life, and guiding them along the way, social, emotionally, and academically to reach those goals. And the moms are a central part of that process. So our programming also involves the moms to support the girls.
Oh, that's amazing. And I want to go back a little. We'll go back to Con Mi Madre, but going back a little, where are you from?
So I was born in Cuba to a Cuban mom and a Chilean dad, and grew up all throughout Latin America. We left when I was about 3. So I grew up between Cuba for a little bit, Panama, Chile, Argentina, and my family settled in the US when I was 14 years old. So I had to go through that same experience that many of our students are going through of immigrating and kind of figuring everything out here.
And tell us more about your journey moving to the United States and more about your education. How did you know this is what you want to do?
So, well, my family, one of the reasons that they chose to settle here, and my parents, and especially in where we ended up going to, we came into Miami and very shortly thereafter moved to Wisconsin in the 90s. So, there wasn't a whole lot of diversity there at the time, a very different climate. We didn't speak the language, but they had, and they continue to have a very strong education system. And that was one of the guiding points that my parents, they value education a lot, and they hadn't had the opportunity, my mom to even, finish high school, and my dad, didn't have the opportunity to graduate from college. So for them, that was a guiding principle as to the opportunities that they could offer me without, they didn't have any money, any resources. They did all kinds of jobs, that we immigrants do when we move to a country, from cleaning homes to hotels to factories, you name it, until they started their own small food business. But so that was what put me in that space. And I've always liked learning. So I knew that I wanted to go to college. And then when I was in college, I knew that I wanted to go into grad school. In my college journey, I became very interested in classes that dealt with the Latino experience in the US, and then in Latin American history, because I had lived through a lot of those processes of dictatorships and political unrest and people mobilizing and all those things. So I was very curious about that. And I happened to be at a school at the University of Wisconsin in Madison that had a really, really good program and great scholars in Latin American history. So I ended up following that course. And then I was, when I came close to graduating, there wasn't enough. I needed more. So I ended up going into grad school and pursuing, a master's in Latin American studies and a PhD in Latin American history, gender studies, African diaspora, to understand kind of the roots and to understand, my own background and the countries that I came from and that I had lived in. So that's how I ended up down that route, which you think, well, executive director of a nonprofit today, that's something totally different. So I've led many different career paths, not many, but all of them tied within education. Started more in the academic space, teaching as a professor, researcher, and then slowly made a move more into the nonprofit world. And I really like how dynamic this space is, and how how rewarding it is to see the impact of supporting students that have these experiences of having to figure out how an education system works, and many of them come from immigrant families. So that has been like a full circle moment for me based on my own experience. But yeah, I don't know if I answered your question. I went all sorts of in all sorts
Oh,
of angles.
this is all about you. So as much as you want to tell. And going back to like your experiences, how has being an immigrant and Latina influenced, your work today?
Well, it has greatly influenced the work today, um, because I think my experience as an immigrant. I've been an immigrant in different countries, but my experience as an immigrant in the U.S. at a very pivotal age, and at a very important moment when you're making that transition into high school, um, was complex because of language barriers, because of cultural barriers. But what really helped me be resilient and navigate that was not just my family support, emotional support, but people in the community that had different roles. That wasn't their like paid job, but that they stepped up and said, okay, let me show you how to navigate, enrolling into high school, and what to expect. Or somebody else who would, step up and say, there's these programs at the university that might help you, apply to get in and to get the support that you need to continue learning English. Things like that uh, showed me the value of community and how important it is to reach the goals that we want to reach. It's not the same, when you don't have anyone. Like, it's important to have people around you, and I'm super grateful for the people that stepped up, even though I didn't have an organization like the one I work for today to do that. I had people here and there that helped me or that guided my parents. So doing this job helps me uh, do what people did for me, but with more structure and more resources, and to have a larger impact that doesn't end with the person that is going to school with that student. It's a multi-generational impact, in the same way that those people who stepped up and supported me in ways that may have seemed small to them at the time, explaining, this is what you do when you go to the cafeteria. This is how you ask for food in English. This is how you talk to someone. This is how you get the bus. This is the paperwork you need to fill out. This is how you choose classes. They're like things that you're like, oh, that's like a small thing. But those things, added up and equipped me to navigate a system that was really new to me. And thanks to all of those bits of help here and there, I was able to graduate, to have a very good education, and I'm a mom today, and so my daughter is not going to struggle in the way that I did, or have some of the same challenges. She's going to have new challenges, but not the ones that I had. And her starting point, mine might have been here, hers is over here. So it has a multi-generational impact. So doing the work that I do today, I see the value of that, and how we have that impact on multiple families, and their descendants, like, over the years.
And having that impact on families, what type of support or resources does Con Mi Madre give for young Latinas and their moms?
Yes, so we with the students, we have two parts of our program. One happens inside of the school during the school day, and the other part it's after school, and and involves the moms. So the one inside of the school is guided by a curriculum that is developmentally appropriate. So it changes from the sixth grade all the way through the 12th, where we meet with students in cohorts. So in each school that we're in, we are in 17 schools right now in the Central Texas area, with two school districts. And we have, for each school, we have a coordinator that works with a cohort of students, implemented that curriculum, meeting with them twice a month, so every other week. The first part of the week, they talk about, in the sixth grade, seventh grade, when they're in middle school, we start talking about who are you, like exploring what are your goals, your family, have they gone to college, what is their experience like, and your culture, all of those things, to really reaffirm the student's identity, to communicate and help bring out that confidence, that what they have is enough, that who they are is enough, that they already have what it takes to accomplish their goals, that they just need to be connected with resources and guided. And so we start from the inside out, and help them dream big, because that's important. When you're coming from a family that hasn't had the opportunity to have higher education, or that is struggling to make ends meet, kids are very smart, and they might curtail even their own dreams, not because their parents want them to do that, because they don't want to make anyone uncomfortable. They're like, well, if we can't afford that, I'm not even gonna think of this as a possibility or that as a possibility. So what we do with the student is really starting to talk about everything being possible. Like, and if there's no barriers, what would you love to do? What are things that you want to explore? What are experiences you want to have? And as they get closer to high school, then we start preparing them, with more like college prep things, like how to write essays and extracurriculars that will help them, how to ask for letters of recommendation, fill out the FAFSA form. So we walk them through all those spaces. And then outside of the school, when they start getting some acceptances or like financial aid packages, we also help them sort through that. Like, what does this mean? Because it can be very confusing, to go through that whole process.
Mhm.
So we support them in that way inside of the school. When the student gets to college, we have monthly check-ins with each student to make sure that they have an advocate, and they have somebody who, when you're in college, it's not that you need somebody to just tell you what to do, but you need somebody to listen to you and help you sort through what you're living and figure out, okay, I'm interested in this area, what do I do next? So that's when we can come in and say, okay, this is how you can apply for internships. This is, like best practices. These are some opportunities that are open in that we've learned about that you can apply for. Or somebody struggling with imposter syndrome or like mental health. And we can say, well, we can refer them to someone and say, connect them with a resource, or just walk them through what they might need at that time, which is really important for a first gen college student, especially to have that person who is there for them and who's rooted in where they went to high school, who's rooted in their home where their parents live, in their same community. So we provide that. Outside of the school, we do workshops throughout the years under this series called Somos el Futuro. And those workshops bring moms and daughters together. And the reason that we do this work with the moms, and if there's not a mom, we involve any adult that wants to be part of the program with the student. But the reason that we involve a mom historically is because when you look at research, moms are the biggest influence on their daughters. And it doesn't mean that a mom needs to have a certain career path or a certain income. No, just that emotional support goes a long way and for them to be, successful in their careers or in what they want to accomplish, and to be resilient and push on when things get difficult. So we spend a great deal of time in the workshops bringing topics that they want to learn about. There's some workshops we had in the fall included um, health, just heart health, cancer screenings, civic engagement, cybersecurity. And these are topics requested by the moms. We have also included in there, like throughout the workshops, some that are just meant to build that bond between mom and daughter. So we have a mom whose daughter already graduated from our program, but she has a floral business, and she volunteered to do these floral arrangement workshops and gift wrapping around Christmas. And you see moms and daughters doing something, coming together, spending that time, which many of them, most of them, I should say, cherish that so much, because they tell us, we're so busy. There's so much, we work, we have so much going on. And we know that when we're coming into this space, we have that protected one-on-one time, with our daughter and with a community. And it's like a release, of like the stress, and it's a moment to come together. So we do those workshops throughout the year with the moms and the daughters. And then we have a program for the moms that we call Café Entre Madres, which is like a networking group where they set the tone for the conversation. And it's time for them to come and share what they want to talk about and build community. So we have a really beautiful community of moms that are supporting each other in the process of raising a daughter. And as someone who's raising one daughter and two stepdaughters, they don't come with an instruction manual, and everyone is different. And so having people that can guide you and provide insight, it's so valuable, when you're in that space. And it makes you feel that you're not alone in that process.
If you're all about education, going back to school, or you're currently navigating college right now, we have something very exciting to share. Our Latinas in Education is coming very soon. So be sure to follow us at Latina Leadership Podcast on our socials, because we'll be updating and you can reserve your spot at our event. And for our listeners, where is Mi Madre located?
In Austin, Texas. And we work within the Austin Independent School District and Del Valle School District in the Austin area and its surroundings. And then we have a lot of families that we support that are not in those districts, and they don't receive the curriculum, but they receive the out of school programming. We do college trips twice per year, take moms and daughters to, visit a school from middle school all the way through high school graduation, so that they see the space, they feel it, they ask questions. So it's like this immersion in that process to help everyone feel comfortable and informed by the time they have to make those decisions.
And when like young Latinas are interested in this, how do they get involved? How do they get involved?
Yes. Well, it's easy. Like they fill out an application that we have online at comimadre.org. And we don't turn away any girl. And if there's, the majority of the girls that we serve are Latinas, that's the majority of the population in our state right now, and in our, in the schools that we're serving. But we don't exclude anyone who's not a Latina. Like anyone that wants to join can come into the program. And we advertise the program through school counselors, through word of mouth. We table at a lot of community events, at school fairs. And because we've been around for a while, we started as a project, as a program in 1992, and as a nonprofit in 2007. So there's a lot of word of mouth information that gets out, and moms that bring other moms, or a student, who goes into our groups and they're pulled out of an elective class. That's how we do it during the school day, to come into our group. And then their friend says, where are you going? What are you guys doing there? Or they learn, they had a college trip, or they're doing all these fun things. And students recruit other students too. So there's a lot of ways that people find out about our program.
And for young Latinas or other young students in this program, what advice do you give them when maybe they're feeling, I guess, there are hurdles to overcome and they're not sure that they can even do this? They don't feel confident in themselves. What advice do you have for them?
Well, I think the first thing that helps is that most of us at the organization, and especially those that work in our programming team, they've been there. Most of them are Latinas. Most of them are first gen to go to school, to go to higher education, and so they have built by then a strong relationship with the students, and they can relate and they can share their own experience, and that helps. um, when I'm going to give you an example of something that has come up multiple times. Like, we've had students who get accepted into a school out of state, and they get nervous and worried, and how am I going to do it, how am I going to pay for it, like, am I getting a scholarship? Maybe that's not enough. So if it's like monetary, we try to connect them with a lot of different funding opportunities that we're aware of in Austin. We fundraise for scholarships, but that's just one small portion of the cost of an education. So we connect them with opportunities so that they know, hey, there's other ways. But there's the fear of being away from home, or like, my family is not going to like it because I'm far away, and I really want to do this, but I don't want to disappoint my mom, and I don't want them to feel like I'm abandoning them. And so when that comes up, we talk to the student about, your family has been in this program with you, your mom. She obviously supports you in this process. Put yourself in her shoes. It's also scary to see, to your baby grown up and go across, the country somewhere else, and your mom is not going to love you any less, or stop caring, or shun you because you've left. Like, she might not love it at first, but she will support you. And at the same time, we talk to the mom of that student, because we have a parent coordinator that just works with the mom in just talking through that process and through those fears, so that there's buy-in on that end. So that's why it's really important working with the family as a whole, and not just the student, because this is not really a student against the family situation. Everybody's working together, everybody's connected, everybody wants everyone's best, like their well-being. So we have, by the time they apply to college, we built those relationships with them, and have a good rapport, and can go back and talk about what that process will look like. And I haven't seen yet one case where, after that student goes off to school, the mom doesn't support them, or the mom is not behind them. It's it's funny, because I always share this on interviews and the community. It's those moms, the moms who are like, at first very hesitant and afraid, are the ones who are that student's biggest support when things get tough in their freshman year and they get homesick. So we just engage in a lot of conversations, provide resources, and then a lot of examples of people in the community that have gone through that, that same process, and have done well. And I think the role models are key. Like, when we bring in keynote speakers for their graduation, or when we do workshops, and we very intentionally partner with speakers, with presenters that share an experience with those students, and are now in places that where they might be the first, or that traditionally might not have a lot of women or a lot of Latinas, and they talk about how they navigate that. It becomes tangible. You're like, okay, if all these women that I've met while I've been in this program come from a similar background, and then they're all doing this amazing job in these places that that you would never thought that they would be in, why can I do it? So that reaffirms those choices a lot too.
And you mentioned that your program follows these young students into college and checks in and wants them to know that there's someone there for them. What, I guess, are some examples of success stories or maybe goals achieved that these students did that was like your proud moment? Like, that you're like, yeah, this is why I'm doing this.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, there's so many. So let me see. Off the top of my mind, I can think of a few. One of them, um, she started, in the sixth grade, and in Austin, and she was very shy. And she said that, like, her safe place was the library, to go and read. And that's how Con Mi Madre kind of reached out. And she said that she felt like she had this small community, this group where she felt safe going through the groups. And her mom came from Mexico and was with her throughout the program. She through us ended up connecting with a bunch of resources, going to college, graduating from college, and now she leads a very important part of the communications team in the transportation agency here in Austin for the city, and she's on our board, and she provides so much support and insight that can guide the programs that we do because she had that experience herself. And she's a mom and to two girls, and she shares with us like how going through this program also made her aware of like and helped her now with her vision for her girls. And she shared the same thing that I shared with you about like her girls being positioned differently and having a world of possibilities because of the experience that she had as a kid and going through the program. Then we have another student um, who's who went through our program, the one whose mom has a floral business and continues to show up and support, even though her girl graduated a few years ago from college. Um, she started her own nonprofit with a friend, another girl, Latina girl she met at a fellowship, and they did like a fellows program in Harvard because they want to go into law school and a pre-law fellows. And she met another friend, and they had similar interests, and they wanted to support women in Latin America that were maybe more remote or rural areas, and anywhere, and that had access to the internet with empowerment and like with workshops and resources from here. And they started their own nonprofit called LEA, Latina Empowerment Alliance, with speakers and set up a 501(c)(3), went through the whole process, like two young Latinas, and now they're supporting people all throughout the world. I collaborated with them in one of the workshops, and it was beautiful. And she's now in DC, working, as a fellow for the National Hispanic Caucus. And she started our program sixth grade. They had just moved. They're from Peru, and they had just moved to Austin from California, and they've been with us ever since. And the moms keeps coming to support other moms. And even though her daughter is not in Austin anymore, not in the program, she's there like every time, and she does it with so much joy. So seeing once you build community, people, they thrive, they go away, they do their thing, but they remain very rooted and connected to that community because it gave them so much more than a tangible opportunity for an education. It gave you friends, people that support you and are there with you, not just for the duration of a program, but for life.
And because there are so many young students and young Latinas who need this mentorship, this help, these resources, what's in the future for Con Mi Madre? Like,
Yes.
let's say there are young students here in Houston who want to join or that need that guidance. Will there ever be like a virtual or maybe like moving to different cities, do you think?
Well, yes, that is something we hope to be able to do in the future, and what we're doing now to prepare for that, because to my knowledge, and I've been in this role for about 6 years, and to my knowledge, and collaborated with people in other programs here in the state of Texas and outside of Texas, and I'm not aware of any other program that does exactly what we do in that dual generation model. Um, so we are working right now with a researcher out of UT to develop, and with the support of the Annie Casey Foundation in Baltimore, to develop our evaluation model even farther. I mean, we have one, but thinking of, okay, if this program were to go anywhere else, what are the different things that need to be in place for it to work? Because every city is different, right? The culture, you go to Houston, and Austin and Dallas and El Paso, they're like different worlds. Like the culture varies so much. So how do we how do we package this program in a way that it can be sustainable and successful in different settings? So we're in the process of in the research process of applying for funding to conduct that research with UT Austin and to develop a model that we can take other places because we had chapters in two other cities before, and due to funding limitations, mainly had to, and one of them also happened during the pandemic and had to close them. So we learned a lot of, okay, when you're expanding, what are do's and don'ts? What are things that you need to have in place? So it's very important to grow a program to have a connection to that community and local leadership that will guide what that program will look like there. Because we've done it before where it was all managed from here, but it's a very different city, and we want to be very customized, to like customize the support and the work that we give, the work and the support that we offer to the needs of that particular community and their vision, so that we're not telling someone else this is what you need to do, so that people tell us this is what we need and this is how we do it in this particular city. So yeah, long story short, to answer your question, we're building that out so that eventually we can grow.
And as someone who finds this work inspiring, or maybe others listening who find it inspiring, are there ways that we can support this program, or like donations or other ways to
Yes.
support?
Yes. I mean, donations are always, as a nonprofit leader, I'll tell you, donations are always welcome. How the community shows up to support is really important. Sometimes people think, I'm not a millionaire, I'm not wealthy, so I can't support something. I'm not going to make a dent, but it adds up. It adds up. We have people who have been former students of the program and are doing well in their careers, and they make a $25 monthly donation, but that adds up with the donation of other people, and it makes a huge impact, especially at a moment where there's a lot of limitations to funding, to larger pots of funding right now. People showing up to support becomes more critical than ever to sustain the programs, to sustain the work that we do. We're super frugal in how we do the work, and most of our money goes to paying the salaries of our full-time employees who are delivering the service, who are there with the students and spending that time. So yeah, donations, if anyone is in the Austin area, we have some opportunities to volunteer, to get involved with workshops. And we also have an annual, fundraiser that we do every year called the Corazon Awards, where we honor 3 people from our community that have had an impact in our mission and the work we're doing. That one's coming up on April 4th. And this year we're doing a prom theme to bring back that nostalgia and those memories, and celebrate and think about our students who are, reaching that milestone. And that's, people who might be listening to this who are connected to different industries and corporations, sponsorships, and, corporate gifts. Like all of those ways go a long way in supporting the work that we're doing. So yeah, there's no donation is too little to support our work. And then, opening doors for the program. Sometimes somebody doesn't have the funds themselves, but they might know of, somebody else or a business who might be aligned with the work that we're doing, and they might be interested in supporting, and they just make an introduction and open that door, and allow us to build those relationships. So there's a lot of ways of supporting.
And going back to the donation supporting, where can we go to donate?
So in our website, if you go to mimadre.org, there's a donate button that will pop up right there, and you can click that, and you can make, a one-time donation, you can make a recurrent donation, anything that, that those listening might like to do. But yeah, it's very easy.
And Dr. Johanna, is there anything I haven't asked you that you want to tell our viewers?
Yes, I always have something to add, but it's I think, I just want to share how, in a time where, this, what has been known as diversity and inclusion, it's being questioned, or programs tied to diversity and inclusion are being defunded or eliminated. I think it's important to shift our thinking a little bit when we talk about the work, especially the work we're doing in education. We're working with, in all of those that work with students of color, um, kids of immigrants, like you name it. Historically, these have been populations that have been considered as minorities, or like a small part, compared to the mainstream, or what will you. But when we look at the demographic trends, we're not dealing with a minority anymore. We're dealing with a population that is going to drive the workforce of the United States, that is going to drive the economy. When we look at the impact of Latina, like the Latinas in the country on the gross domestic, the GDP, the gross domestic product, it's very impactful. So I would like to kind of make that call to shift the mindset and to think that we are dealing with a changing demographic that will directly impact the economy for everybody in this country when we're supporting Latinas in their education and students of color in their education, because that's what our workforce is going to look like um, in the next decade or two. So if we don't take the time to invest in the education of that demographic, we are really doing a disservice to the economy of a country and all of its inhabitants. So I just wanted to share that because I think it's important, especially right now, to keep that in mind.
No, that's really important. And actually, I don't know the exact data to back this, but I know younger Latinas, that group, it's not necessarily common for every single one of them to graduate or to like finish school. So I feel like what you do in your program is very important for us today.
Yes, our graduation rate is 97%, which is it's pretty big, and and it speaks to that holistic support that we're offering the students, and that community building, because it's not just them in this process together. They have a community to walk the process along with them. But yes.
Yes, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for taking the time and for sharing my journey, and more importantly, sharing the work that we're doing with Mi Madre here in Austin. So thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us in this amazing conversation today. And if you need more information or resources, as always, they'll be in the description below. Please don't forget to follow us everywhere at Latina Leadership Podcast to stay updated with our latest releases, events, updates, and more. And with that, we'll see you next time.